Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Your boy Blake Money, Blake with another episode of the Loaded Joe's MMA podcast. How's everybody doing out there in podcast land? I hope you're doing great. It's Thursday night. I'm feeling right. Got the beers. We saying cheers. It's popping off. If you're listening to this, whether it's daytime, morning time, you commute to work, I'm telling you, I know I keep bringing this up, and some people might think I'm gross, but I promise you it's the truth. You sneak off from work, you go take a shit, but you're not really shit. You're just sitting there listening to podcasts. I know you do it because I used to do it when I had shitty jobs. I got a great job now, but whoever you listen to this, I want to thank you. The fans, thank you. Again, tune in to the Facebook Live episode that's going on tomorrow, 8:30 Central Standard Time. The former Joes, we got some new Joes. Me, the main Loaded Joe. It's going to be legit. Trivia, guests, fight companion. There's never been nothing like this before. I'm guaranteeing y'all. So please tune in. Quick shout outs to all of our sponsors, Rufiano International, Rufiano Fightwear. Please go check them out. For your fashion, just like fashion accessories, I think people spend far too much time trying to figure out what kind of cotton they want to use and trying to figure out whether some shit looks good or doesn't look good. So please go check them out. Rufiano International, Rufiano Fightwear. That's Ruffiano. You'll see the logo right at the bottom of the podcast. Zen Soap Co., zensoapco.com. All natural soap from Austin, Texas. I have very sensitive skin, and I can't use that Dove shit. The Irish Springs, that's that cheap piece of shit. Don't be buying that. Guys, if you can find an all-natural soap, whether it's Zenco or not, they're not going to want me to say this, but whether it's Zen soap or not, you use all-natural soap. It's very good for your body. If you're listening right now, I'm letting you in on secrets. I'm loving y'all. ZenSoapCo.com. Use the code word GETLOADED, all capital letters, 10% off. That's because I love you, because you're Joe Army. NOP Media, shout outs to them for all of our graphics, logos, designs. If I say something, then they work with me to get it done, and they can do the same for you, whether you're a musician, whether you're another podcaster, whether you want to shoot it for a bar mitzvah. I don't know what the fuck you're doing, but go check them out, nopmedia.com. Great people over there. Gear Athletics, gearworldwide.com. And then shout outs to everybody along the way that does this positive work for us, the Awesome Kickboxing Academy, and Fight Book MMA. You know, just this shout outs to everybody having our back since day one. Today, my guest today, I'm super excited. Y'all know I get excited when I want to have guys on when I listen to the show. And I listen to this guy's show like religiously I probably caught on like episode 11 or 12. But I might not be a pioneer, but I'm pretty damn close, y'all. The mixed martial arts analyst himself, the host of the Protect Your Neck podcast. We got my main man, Dan Tom. Dan, what's up, baby?
Dude, what is up, Blake? It's good to be here, my man. Thank you for having me.
Dude, thank you for coming on.
The Loaded Joes, of course. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. And let's start off with cheers right here. We've been doing this for about the last 10, 15 minutes, but it doesn't get old. Like drinking beer, I don't think ever gets old. That's like a pastime I never want to stop. Dan, for people that don't know, man, drop some knowledge about yourself so we have a baseline of you know where you coming from. Because, man, you do some really excellent work, man. If you guys haven't read his shit and you haven't heard his shit, I'm going to let him introduce himself. Dan, let these people know about you, man.
Oh, well, thanks, man. Well, I'll try not to give the whole, a breakdown. As you know, if you listen to my podcast, I can tangent on. So whatever you want me to fill in the blanks on, I'm a real open book and probably have some funny stories. So you're a great host, Blake. I'll trust you with that, whatever you want to poke, and interrupt me at any time, sir. But yeah, essentially, you can find me on Twitter at the MM Analyst. Find my work at mixedmartialanalyst.com. And yeah, I do host a podcast. Something always been a big fan of. I love the intro in the beginning of the show, how you were kind of shouting out Blake, even as vulgar as it was, it's the truth, man. I mean, I was one of those guys, whether you're taking a shit or any excuse you can get to just kind of tune out and be entertained. I certainly second your spirit in appreciating that, sir. So thank you all for listening to that. But yeah, I actually started as you said, read my work. And yeah, doing breakdowns kind of dating back to 2015. If you go to mixedmartialanalyst.com,
Yeah.
just essentially, man, I mean, just long of it short, I'm a lifelong martial artist since I was a little kid, about 1992, doing all different types of martial arts, including MMA, kickboxing, boxing, grappling. And through concussions and other injuries, kind of took me off the mat. And coaches, influenced and advice said, "Hey, Dan, you got a lot to offer. You're not exactly the best competitor, as passionate as you are. Stop getting yourself, you get your injury list is longer than pros at this point, and your record not so much. So why don't you just, do something positive?" I was teaching classes at Extreme Couture. I'm out here in Vegas, by the way. And yeah, I decided why not do this, and been able to work for awesome outlets such as Flow Combat, MMA Latest News, in negotiation with some others. I can't talk too much about that.
Okay.
But that's the short of it, sir. That's the short of it, Blake. That's how I got here, man.
I love it, man. I love the journey, and I love, man, even the little things. Like, some of y'all not friends with Dan Tom, and I'm not saying to go at him, because I'm sure when you saw me, you're like, "Oh, motherfucker, adding me. I don't even know this guy." But like, don't go adding Dan Tom. But like, take my word for it. So like, I saw this post the other day, and it made me kind of like, man, like we're all kind of cut from the same cloth, like, in a way, because you were like, I just, I'm not working for the Whole Foods anymore. This was like 2 years ago or whatever. I'm going to do my own thing in MMA and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, oh, my God, dude. Like, we're all, like, I forget sometimes that, like, I put, especially analysts, like, on this pedestal in my own head. Like, I don't say I make pretend to be an analyst. Like, I don't focus enough time on it. I would if I could, and I love it. But I always put guys like this in the MMA community just on here, and then seeing that post like that, it really brings it down. It's like, actually, we're all people. We all start somewhere. We all come from humble beginnings. We all, in this together. And I think, man, like, I appreciate seeing stuff like that. I appreciate people's journey, what it takes to get them here, because that's why I got a podcast, right? Like, it's a unique thing. You want to find out everybody's story, because everybody's different. I mean, I think fighters might give the same answers, like they come on, like on other podcasts, not mine, but they, people be like, "Well, what's your weight? And how are you going to take out your?" I'm like, motherfucker, like, he's going to give the same answer he gave 3 interviews ago. The motherfucker don't care, like, But I try to change things up, and I don't know where I was getting at, but the humble beginnings. We all come from somewhere, and again, take my word for it, folks. That post did exist. I did see it. I click like on it, but yeah, man. Let's kind of like just start from there. You quit this job. You're about to focus more on mixed martial arts analysts. I mean, what's the thought process as you're kind of letting the wings kind of come off, and when you really, I think probably, I don't know you well enough, but I could assume maybe then is when really, like, the analytic, you got deeper down a hole of, like, analytics and focusing on mixed martial arts, and I don't know, am I right or wrong, man?
No, you're absolutely right on so many levels. And before I get into the specific level of analyst, because that's more just a weird thing, let me touch on the more broader level. Something else I feel you were correct on, Blake, as far as we were all on a certain level. And I kind of liken it, just to give a nice broad reference and movie reference, I liken it to the movie Fight Club, which I'm sure we all watch, I'm sure you watch, like Project Mayhem, where we realize, like, wait a minute, there's so much we all want to be, there's all the, we're all men of, it's another quote of, living quiet lives of desperation, but there's just so many more. We're not the only ones suffering these problems. Whatever problems we may think we have, there's actually so many more people that actually feel the same way. And when you connect with those people, especially through a community base like the MMA community or the podcast community, sir, as we're connecting now, it's a really special and awesome thing, regardless if you're just, doing the show, or if I'm listening to your show or you're listening to my show. So you are 100% right on that. And I'm just, a normal dude. And to be honest, what sparked it, before I get into specifics, was just me. I was turning 30, and I feel like I'm a bit of an older 30. I was lucky. I was exposed to a lot of things in life, as far as being able to just, go through martial arts, travel around the world, go to China for a little bit, to the Shaolin Temple, birthplace of martial arts. Was there the same year Dan Hardy, although we obviously didn't know each other, because who was Dan Hardy then, and well, who is Dan Tom now? But forget who is Dan Tom now, especially who was Dan Tom back then. But it was just all these, like, really cool circumstances I was really lucky to be a part of. And the analyst stuff, that's just a weird niche to me, man. mean, I was in a basketball, and my mom will tell you, I was, 1993, a little kid waiting for the newspaper because internet wasn't big back then, and I would cut out articles that are still saved in a paper bag today of stats of Jordan and Pippen, because I was a Bulls fan, but I wasn't a Michael Jordan fan. I was a big Scottie Pippen fan, and I would count the stats and argue by the numbers that he was a better player. That we're just narrative. I was like, listen, he beat Jordan's 3-point record. Jordan got 6. Not only did Scottie get 7, he got 7 according to college rules after the Houston Rockets 97 finals where they backed the 3-point lineup. And I just would go on these tangents as a kid. And I would hijack my parents' friends they would have over, like grown adults having beers. And I would hijack them and get into like debates, as an 8-year-old.
God,
so
dude, you're crazy.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't surprise a lot of people that know me, so that's kind of a weird niche. But in the broader sense, yeah, man, I'm just a normal dude, and that just happens to be my itch. And yeah, man, back to your more specific answer of going around that time, the Whole Foods posts, that was cool, man, because it inspired a lot of people, whereas really it was just shit that I should have been saying a long time ago. And I made the mistake of, and you don't get me wrong, there's plenty of nobility in jobs. And if you look at like my job history, I was like the guy who gets promoted to supervisor who doesn't miss a day at work. And there's a lot of nobility in that. And I'm not seeing any to not take pride in their work. I was a dude who takes pride in my job, and you have plenty of reason to take pride in your job. But what I am saying is there are bad apples, and you shouldn't let people kind of dissuade your value. And what I found myself was I was about to turn 30, Blake, and I was like, oh my God, I've gotten wins, national level taekwondo, karate, kempo karate, traveled the world, kung fu, have won grappling tournaments.
Damn, now man.
I got, even though it wasn't pro, it was amateur or like exhibition smoker, kickboxing, boxing. I got victories in all these things except for MMA. And the one MMA fight that I had it was really bad. It was different, Extreme Couture was under a different regime at that time. And I was essentially set up to fight Marvin Eastman's son. But my coach at the time was his ex-trainer, which was suspect enough. But I'm just such a nice
bro,
guy.
Yeah.
I just want to get in there. And then my trainer doesn't show up the night of the fight. This is tough enough. This is the same. This is about like the card after Ronda Rousey's last fight in like 2011. Going deep. This is tough enough. The top amateur organization in the world. This had Alan Joban, all these talents.
Yeah, everybody's been through the ringer, man.
Oh yeah, and this was actually their first or second show because they had the ring for the first couple of years. This was the first show they had the cage. So as amateurs, we're all like UFC, bro. We get to fight in the cage. We're all stoked. And like I'm sitting there with my dick in the wind. My trainer's not there. And it was still, no excuses. I still love the guy. I say what's up to him, even though, it was a little, I might have gotten a raw deal, but I go 3 rounds. I'll save you, the details, whatever. I go 3 rounds. Just getting beat up for the most part, having a couple moments there, but a clear unanimous decision loss, and was just really upset with it. And that always kicked me. So I'm here. I'm fast forward turning 30. I'm like, that's the bucket list, man. As a lifelong martial artist, I know I'm not athletic. I've got way too many injuries, and I'm not going to achieve any of that pro status or this or that. Most of my rounds were spent in the gym. But I got to get that one last win, Blake. I got to get that one checkbox.
You got it.
And I actually got a fight book. Luckily, I was friends with a matchmaker, and they had a fight 2015 for August 7th, my birthday. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I get a fight on my birthday. I didn't have an opponent locked down, but I got booked. Okay. And so I'm training for it, and that's when I suffered my concussion, man. I get a concussion training rounds. I was actually winning the rounds was the scary part, but I get home. And I can't. My girlfriend has a nice salmon dinner prepared because I'm already in diet mode for weight cut, and I'm staring at a wall. She tells me for 5 to 15 minutes, unresponsive.
Bro,
it's really bad, man. I'm still dealing with stuff to this day. I'll save you the rants on it, but yeah, man, that's what essentially got me. And even though I actually paid extra insurance for my work in case, because I knew I did mixed martial arts, so I'm like, the regular insurance ain't gonna cut it. I actually paid extra. Unfortunately, sorry for the rant. But
no, you're good, man.
Mental stuff is such a new science that it's not even covered under insurance policies. So, of course, they're not going to take liability if they don't need to. I was thrown under the bus. Vacation, insurance, all that time eventually does run out. I lost my job. Sad story. Yada yada. It's all good. It was a bad work environment to be honest. And this little side project that I started off the advices of my coach started taking off. I got an offer from MMA Latest News, a UK-based site. Eventually got an offer from Flow. I started doing scouting work for professional fighters. And doing other things to kind of make my way. And I've been kind of just surviving off that. And I'm glad I took the chance, man, because now I'm just kind of doing what I love.
And that's what you have to do, man, like doing what you love. And I think it's different strokes for different folks in MMA community. But there is something so unique about whether it's fighting or whether, like me, I started my podcast December 2014, and I just kind of went on a whim, and like I had a game plan though, because like I'd been inspired by like, Joe Rogan, Fighter and the Kid were really just starting to catch heat. MMA Insiders with Jason Floyd and Sam Kaplan was just barely starting, and so I was just like, man, like I want to do this, and I think it's pursuing the dream. And fortunately, like I've been through them shitty jobs where I was hiding in the bathrooms listening to podcasts. I've been through that. But I'm fortunate enough, I've got a great job right now that allows me, like, you see how active I am on social media, and
Oh yeah.
it allows me to do that. It allows me to be able to, it's kind of goes hand in hand. With the company I work for, I don't want, I'll talk to you off air about it, but they're primarily a very large social media company. I'll leave it at that. And so I'm fortunate enough to like know ins and outs and know stuff I need to do to make myself better. And it's just being in the right place. But I think if I would have had this job that I have right now and I didn't have my podcast, like I wouldn't be taking advantage of it in the way that I could. If you didn't quit you weren't working for Whole Foods and you weren't doing analytic work, like what would you be doing? You know what I'm saying? So these little things that you do, they can mean big things once an opportunity opens or once that window opens. I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm getting at, but you know what I'm getting at. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
absolutely, man. Yeah. No, you totally nailed it, and I like how you kind of put that perspective piece on it. How you can do both, and it kind of is about perspective, but then also yet being very grateful and recognizing what's around you, being grateful for it and using it properly. And it sounds like you've been that's exactly been your game plan on and off the podcast game, going back from congratulations, by the
Thank
way,
you, man.
2014, sir. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm in here, man, and so I got to stay. I stay keen. So I'll say it like this, man. So for the longest time up until this year, I had this idea in my head, like, I'm competing with all these people. I'm in competition, and it wasn't until I met my friend, and you see me interact with him a lot, Kyle Steele from the
Oh
Loudmouth
yeah,
MMA.
yeah,
So me and him
yeah.
interact a lot, and since December, I think it was like 16th, 17th. First day I went on the show. Every day since then we've talked, and I like to tell this story because it was a real pinnacle point and kind of my takeoff, my launch. Like since this one point I'll get at, things have just taken off, and so I don't know if it's karma. I don't know what the fuck, people, good vibes, whatever fuck. But what I'm about to say, so. I enjoyed him. I enjoyed his show, and then he got Bruce Buffer on and Robin Black on, and I was on one side of me, I was so happy to see him grow, and on the other side, I'm like, why the fuck I haven't been doing that? Like, why the fuck I've had Wonder Boy on before, I've had Linton Basell on before, but I haven't had, like, I want to get Robin Black on. I love analytics. I want to get Bruce Buffer on because we could talk about drinking and bitches, like we could have a good time. Like if ever there's a show to do it, this is the show to do it, goddammit. So, I remember sitting, like, it was like January, and I know about a month or so, maybe like late January, and I was sitting with my girlfriend, and so I was talking, and she was like, well, what's wrong? And I'm like, well, it's, Kyle, his show, like, I feel like I'm a competitor, but we're really good friends. We've talked every day, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, why are you competitors? Does he do a show where he's drinking and he's talking to fighters? And I'm like, well, no. And she's like, okay, let me tell you like this. And I promise these aren't my TV shows. These are her shows. I'm gonna say. She's like, it's like when I watch Kardashians and Grey's Anatomy. I promise I don't watch those shows. But I would say, she's like, it's like when I watch those shows. They're not in competition with each other. They have two different audiences. Two different type of people can watch them. One type of person can watch both. So I don't understand why you think you're in competition. And that's, I'm like, yeah, when the fuck did you become Gandhi or Yoda? Or when the fuck did you become Buddha all of a sudden? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it was true, though. I was just like, yeah. So I started obviously I added you to it, and I'm so happy that you've kind of interacted and thrown your hat in my podcast community on Facebook, man. It's a real important, because you see there's no trolls on there. It's all positivity. It's all love. It's all just like people wanting to grow, new podcasts, wanting to grow. It's the same thing I wish existed when I started my podcast. I want to be the pinnacle of light that I was looking for when I was there. You know what I'm saying? And it gives me opportunity to link up with these new people and then see what people are doing and, take their ideas, and maybe a light bulb goes off in my head and make new ideas. So it's really cool, man, to kind of come full circle and get to that point, man, and be able to connect with people like you, because and this is where I want to get at, man. I love analytics. I love MMA breakdowns. I have an MMA podcast and a boxing podcast, and I love talking footwork and fucking, again, so I'm going to bring it back to something I shared today, the switch dancing of that's becoming a thing. Like, it was never a thing. It was a thing in boxing that was forgotten, that wasn't brought back until Dominic Cruz comes back and brings in. DJ Dillashaw does something different with it, and you see fighters like, I think even Cody Garbrandt kind of does that, like this new footwork. I guess Joe calls it neo footwork. I don't know if that's a proper term for it, but it's this Vasily Lomachenko's bringing it back, but it's an old thing that's becoming new. That's why I wrote in the description, it's like, it's kind of retro, because it's like, this was a thing that was in boxing for a long time before these MMA guys are bringing it into. And that's one thing I love is I love boxing. I probably, obviously you can see I got my double M bag behind me. I'm very much a practitioner of boxing and of Dutch style kickboxing, because I could never kick high, so I kind of have to mold my workouts to like what I can do, but like I study like what I can do to make it better, and it's interesting because that's not every, and I love that everybody doesn't do it, because that doesn't make things that me and you do special.
Right. Yeah. No, man, there's a lot to unpack there, but I want to touch on a couple of that because I feel it's all really important on what you said. And if I can kind of offer my perspective to
go for it, man.
The points you make, because I agree. But as far as wow, now I'm just thinking about shifting. You got my technical head spinning. But before that, as far as podcasting and communities and stuff, I talked about this a little bit on my my other show, because a couple shows ago in the beginning of it, because it was a theme of mine, as far as like I was trying to explain myself. And if y'all know me, I hear it from people who don't know me too well to people who know me really well. All have an accurate read, all guilty as charged. I'm real quick to apologize, maybe a little bit more than I should. And kind of like you were saying, like, wait, is someone else doing another show where, they have drinks and try to have that drink environment with fighters and, interviewing all these different versatile fighters? Like, well, no, this or that. And by the way, shout out to Kyle Steele and Loudmouth MMA. I actually finally, I've been a little slow, man. I've been trying to subscribe to everybody's podcast in the Loaded Joe's community, but I'm not kind of rounding back to a bigger point here. I'm not as active as I'd like to be, and allow me to just kind of make an excuse.
Okay, man.
Explain myself here, but I was able to listen to some Loudmouth MMA as well, and you guys have a different style, man, and then I love that you guys embrace that. You all shout each other out, not just through your podcast, but again, I'm through a couple different chats, and to be honest, I usually, I don't say no, but let's just say I don't go looking for chats, and I'm usually not too active, but I've been poking around a lot more, liking things, nudging, peeking around. And aside from just the consistent content, which is most important, of course, but y'all are super positive. So it's been a real treasure unpacking. You're absolutely right. This isn't competition. And it's funny because I feel like I give almost too much shout outs at one point, or put myself out there too much from being like too nice. But then like I'm also explaining, I'm so tunnel vision, I just sent out this tweet. I'm actually not going to, this is the first week, it's blasphemy to miss a week in podcasting.
Right.
It's all about keeping that
consistency
schedule. And, I think I'm like 28 episodes in, and I'm actually missing my first week because I'm, like Memento, like I thought it was like a different week than what it was. And yeah, I was thinking Gustafson. I'm all hustling to get my stuff done. I'm thinking Gustafson and Teixeira was this weekend and this whole mess. And anyways, it just kind of messed up my schedule. But that's kind of an example of perfect, like just how tunnel vision I am. So if I'm not on, I'm more of a Twitter guy for more than any other social media. I should be better at Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. But to be honest, I'm honestly not on those so much, but I'm trying to make a point to it more. So thanks for everybody, by the way, Loaded Joe's podcast community listening. And I'm sure you're already subscribing to his podcast, but subscribe to Loudmouth MMA too, because I really dug that. I got to listen to a couple episodes, and y'all are awesome. So sorry about the tangent there.
No, you're good, man.
it's exactly right. We're not, I'm always giving credit to, it's easy. Me and Robin are actually friends. We both come from a music background as well. So we kind of click on a lot of levels, but even guys I don't know so well, just on Twitter, which pleasant exchanges, but like Connor Rebush or Patrick Wyman, I'm never afraid to give credit where credit's due. Big to small, outlet or non-outlet affiliated. I just really think I'm a big community guy, coming from the punk rock community. It's real DIY, and the podcast community has a lot of the same traits.
Yeah.
So long-winded, but I appreciate what y'all are doing, and thank you.
No, man, it's the perfect answer. And yeah, I always hear you. I always love it, man, because like you do that. You do the same thing on your podcast where you're like, you apologize. You're like, guys, I'm sorry. I'm talking about my dog too much. But da-da-da. And I always hear you, and I'm like, man, shut up. But shut up, Dan Tom. You talk about what you want to talk about, Dan. I'm talking to myself in my car, and I'm like, shut up, Dan Tom. You talk about what you want to talk about, Dan Tom. You tell the world about your goddamn dog. You tell them that your dog is finally better, man.
Well, to another point, like when you were talking about, like I almost kind of felt bad. Like I saw my buddy Brian. I'm like, hey man, I don't we were joking. We take the piss out of each other, and he was totally peeling the curtain back, saying like, man, your dick was hard over that Frankie Edgar Yair Rodriguez. And you heard how passionate I was breaking that one down. But at the same time, I was like, oh, was I too hard on Yair? And he's like, you were seriously like. As respectful first of all, it doesn't matter if you're an analyst or have experience or not. I respect your opinion. You don't have to have martial arts experience or be an analyst for me to respect your opinion. There's plenty of times I'm listening to podcasts just like yours, and y'all make me click something in my head and go, oh my God, I never thought of it from that view. And that allows me to get a thought that you guys might think is poignant, but you know what? It was triggered by hearing somebody else, which is another reason why I also limit my filter, because as a writer, you got to be careful. You don't want anything bleeding through. You get in trouble there. But no, it doesn't matter. But at the same point, to my defense, hey, give yourself credit where credit's due. Not everybody puts the years in a Taekwondo or Kempo karate to have these black belts and then had to make that transition in mixed martial arts. Like that, you actually uniquely are very fit to talk about that more than most people.
Right.
So I'm like, you know what? That was true. That is true. So you're right, man. You brought up that same point with your podcast. You got to be objective. It's good. You're taking the piss out of yourself. That's always a good thing. But at the same time, be proud of what makes you unique, because it's what makes you unique. You know what I'm saying? As long as you're not shitting on other people, which I like to think, we don't or anything like that. Even we get passionate about our opinions. It's okay to disagree. But I really sentiment what you said there, man.
Yeah. And that's a good thing too. Like you talking about, you do Taekwondo and martial arts for so long. Like I got into MMA in 2009 to lose weight, man. I graduated high school in 2006. I was like 310 pounds. And yeah, bro. Yeah, it was a
You look good right now, man.
Yeah,
you
man.
don't look no 310 right now, I'll tell you that. So.
I'm not no 310 right now, man. I made sure I never got there. But I got into it because of kickboxing. My trainer, he taught me kickboxing. He was like, oh, what do you want to learn? And I do mixed martial arts, do kickboxing, and so I got in learning kickboxing, like just like Muay Thai, and then I found I really liked stand up. I did jiu-jitsu for about probably a year and a half, and just realized I got too injured from it because I'm not flexible enough, and that's my fault. Like I could probably stretch more, but my whole focus was stand up, the footwork, the little things, the angles. I'm bigger, and I was sparring with littler guys, so I was looking always for ways to make myself better and learn better from coaches and fighters and breakdowns, and that's how I really got into it, because I studied myself. So when I started the podcast, I got some of my other co-hosts in at the time, and I'm like, come hit pads with me, and they would hit pads and they'd be like, dude, like you need to be like. This is amazing. Like you don't make me feel stupid. You correct me little things. You're teaching me like just the little minute things slowly, so we can put everything together. Like I like to think I'm a good teacher. I taught karate for about 2 years as well.
Nice. Yeah,
man. I started from the bottom, and I never got to black belt there. Right? But I started from the bottom, never got there. But I was in between, But I learned. So I got all these backgrounds. I got all these things, and so I feel like. So I guess my point is, I feel like when you learn a martial art, or when you study it and you hone in on it and you apply it, you have a different respect, and then different things point out to you when you're watching the fights. It becomes more interesting. You can call shit easier. You can see shit easier. It's like learning a language, and then you can read that language. And it's like the Matrix, when the little shits are coming down, and you're like, oh, yeah, I can read that code. and motherfuckers are still, they just see the little blinkies. Yeah.
Absolutely, and you don't have to be like a world beater to be
No.
able to make that transition. And man, sorry, it sounds like it sounds like if it's a dick suck fest here. It's not the intention at all. Me and Blake, honestly, just we aside from social media, not altercations, obviously, but
Right.
exchanges. That's the word I was looking for. We only really talked about 5 minutes before this, right, Blake? And I could already get the good vibe. I'm like, oh, this dude's cool. I'm digging this already. Not that I had any doubts, but already feeling way better.
Right,
cool.
right.
And it's only exceeded expectations because you keep hitting on all these points that I couldn't agree with more, and I would disagree. Maybe make more for entertainment, but I'm being genuine here.
No, yeah.
And that's one of the things too. When I kind of, not to deflate myself, but just to be real, when I'm too like, oh, you're really good at breaking things down or whatever, and I'm bad at taking compliments. So, I'm real quick to be self-deprecating or take the piss out of myself, but doing it in kind of a pragmatic way with a point to where it's not just me being my weird thing, but like it's something that not just me kind of taking the piss out of myself. In other words, like I'll actually point to something that's real and poignant where I say, it's not so much that I'm a good writer. I'm a terrible writer. I mean, granted, I had professors that pushed me in that way in college, even though I was studying broadcasting and film before I realized that was a dead-end degree. But creative writing was definitely something I was pushed to by professors. But by no means do I have any credentials,
Right.
nor do I claim to be a good writer. But like you said, Blake, I love that. Maybe because you've been doing podcasting for 2014, that would have been a good explanation. But yeah, I think teaching gives you some certain special aspect, whether you're writing or whether you're talking, and you definitely have that. And I not so much in Taekwondo. I was a kid, but Kempo karate, I was a teenager into an adult where I was kind of groomed to run a school. And by the time I was 18 and graduated, I kind of walked away and said, screw this. I'm getting in a van. I'm going to play in a punk rock band and tour the West Coast. That's another story we can get into later if you want. But before that, I spent a lot of years teaching. I even went through what their instructor college. I was United Studios of Self-Defense. It was the most, one of the biggest, widest chains here from East to West Coast, started in Massachusetts. But anyways, teaching adults and having adults invite me out for drinks with them after. And I was just 17 years old, still a senior in high school. I couldn't reveal my age, but I carried myself, despite the young, half Asian, half Italian face. I carried myself very much like an adult. So I got mistaken more for an adult then, whereas now I'm 32 and I can't tell you, I get carded fucking everywhere. I don't get it. Some backwards Benjamin Button shit. And then again, another story for another day. But again, I credit my breaking down back to those days of teaching and having to explain that. And then when even though I got in through striking and boxing, I can't talk about boxing modern day or even in the last decade. I'll be the most ignorant person you've ever talked to. But you want to talk about 90s boxing or even classic, I'm all with you. I'm on before my time. I grew up watching Tyson coming out of prison versus Peter McNeely and Julio Cesar, and I had a lot of Mexican family friends. So I grew up watching Julio Cesar Chavez in the early 90s and that. So I mean that's kind of more my school, and anything before that classic. But so I'm with you there, but with the grappling, I got more into grappling, Extreme Couture, and Neil Melanson, who I talk about a lot of my podcasts. Mm-hmm. Anthony Johnson, more famous for being his coach, Black Zillions.
Black Zillions, yeah.
But he actually had me, and even though I was only a purple belt, not a very high rank. Granted, purple belt's pretty respectful, obviously, but not a very high rank in the grand scheme. But my teaching and my knowledge was probably a higher rank, so he entrusted me with his general classes, and just through those experiences, long-winded. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, man. You're good.
Through those experiences, I think it really helped me to where when it came to breaking down fights and having to explain things, it's not that I'm some eloquent writer, because believe me, that's the last fucking thing I am, right? I'll be honest with you. But it's because just having to explain certain things, and again, being there, like you said, you don't have to be a world beater, but from teaching it and experiencing it, it's like the Matrix, like you said, it runs down the screen and you read the fight in a little different way. Does that mean you're right? No, it doesn't mean any of us are right. But it definitely helps the experience. I suggest anybody, give it a shot.
I was thinking about this as I was driving home today. I have about 40 to an hour minute. I work on the other side of town, and traffic here is fucking horrible because everybody fucking moved here. Thanks a lot, fucking Californians. But we blame the Californians for everything that goes wrong here.
I feel you on that. Sitting here in Vegas, so I sentiment that. Yeah, we do the same thing in Vegas.
But I was thinking about it, and I was just like, I'm be talking to Dan tonight, and I heard I was thinking back. I was listening to your episode, the predictions episode last Friday as I was driving, and you were talking very much at the end, like I'm an analyst, but not always do I get the fights right. And then so I was listening to Heavy Hands, and it's like, well, we're analysts, but not always do we get the fights right. We're not fight. I think people get us confused for we have crystal balls and we can see, ooh, this is gonna be the fucking future. What I think we are though, we are in a way these kind of mystics that can. I don't want to call them. We can look at a crystal ball and see these full-on images of everything, but we see stills, and we can capture in our breakdowns moments that will actually happen, whether that person wins or not. People who analyze fights, analysts, like I consider myself one. Like as entertaining as I am, I consider myself an MMA entertainer, a podcaster. I'm not a media person. Man, I went to Media Scrum here for Bellator, and it was one of the worst experiences being on the media side, just seeing the media. I had a great experience with the fighters, but seeing the media, like, asking the same fucking questions in the media scrums, and, like, I'm like, this motherfucker Czech Congo doesn't want to know who he's going to fight next. Like, he don't give a fuck. And so I asked Czech Congo, I'm like, so what do you think about Austin? He's like, oh, I moved here. And I'm like, I've never known about this, and I've got it captured, on film. But I'm like, I've never known about this. How come this is not news?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like, he's like, I live here now. And I'm like, excuse me? Baking powder? What now? And it's just, I talk to people about real shit. Like, I talked to Derek Campos after his fight. I'm like, what do you want to eat after this, man? I know you're hungry. He's like, you got a wing place? They got a Wild Wings open? What are they doing? I'm like, man, like, you're not gonna get this anywhere, but like that's different. But
that's what's up. No, that's how you get on a fighter's good side right there, by the way. But yeah, no, right on, man.
Yeah.
And as for interviewing skill too, not just, critique, which by the way, I share the same critique as you for what it's worth, but it's not even just a critique, even for interview skill. It's a great way to disarm. So if you do have to ask some questions about business, you'd be surprised. You might actually get a better answer if you're more real, kind of like how your approach is here with the podcast, or even with your limited experience with media. It sounds like you bring it right over to there, which is the right approach.
Yeah, man. And that's exactly how I felt, man. And it's surprising the amount of people that share the same sentiment that me and you do. A lot of fighters do. A lot of fighters hate. I think when they come on my podcast, I think they get the same questions. I'm like, hell no. And we end it with random ass questions where I just ask them 10 random ass questions. I usually got my set ones, and it always throws them off. They're like, I love this. And I always get a text afterwards, man, this is my funnest interview I've done, da-da-da. And it's not, I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying it's just, it's so humbling when I get something like that back, but that's down a different trail. But what I'm saying is, as far as us analysts go, we capture these moments in our breakdowns that actually do happen. We can capture, instead of the whole fight, we might not capture the whole fight, but we likely will, in our breakdowns, capture a picture of what will happen, and you can see it. You can point to it. And when you come back on your next podcast, you can say, I did call this. I did say this point in the fight was going to happen because it was set up by exactly what I said, and it ended the same way that I thought it would. Whether the fight ended like that or not is a different story. But I think it's, when you go around and listen to everybody, you can kind of put these pictures together to make a big picture. So I'm very much the opposite. When I make my fight breakdowns, I listen to everyone, and I take into what they say, but I still have an idea in my mind of how I'm going to break down this fighter, which is what did you get a chance to read the article I sent you?
Yes, I did. The Great Debate. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I want to break down, kind of come full circle to 211, where you did pick Stipe and I picked JDS, but there were a lot of points I think that we shared, and there was some shit that you said that I didn't hear from somebody else, and I want to hear your opinion about, because that was my first time ever writing. To be honest, I don't write. I'm not a writer at all.
Okay.
And so I don't feel like it's a piece of shit writing. I feel like there's pieces in there that other people weren't bringing up, or that didn't point, the little gems, I like to call them, that I drop in there that just maybe people were focused on something else, or they had their own agendas. And I feel like everybody has their own style. Everybody has their own agendas of what they want to point out. So let's go to this fight, man, because you had Stipe, but a lot of the things that were pointed out, right? JDS's left hook was going to be a thing of a weapon that, I mean, he uses it. God damn it, he uses it. Like, we can't deny it.
Yeah.
He fucking
Absolutely.
and the one thing I think I pointed out about Stipe very much was that I didn't hear a lot is he's a bully. He's a brute, is the word I believe I used in my my breakdown. He is a brute. Like, he is a come forward brute in your face. Doesn't give no like the fucks that he has. He left them back in fucking Cleveland. He doesn't give any fucks.
Yep.
and that's exactly like, even if I got my pick wrong, my analysis of the situation still wasn't wrong. Your analysis of the situation still wasn't wrong. Heavy Hands' analysis of the situation still wasn't wrong. Like, these were all right. And he is a fighter. And the one thing I think that I kudos myself on is he is the longer fighter out of every single fight every time he fights, and he fights the shortest out of every single fighter that he fights. I mean, would you agree with this?
No, I completely agree. And if the reason why I'm not thumping my chest on my Stipe pick, because if you listen, to my breakdown or Reddit, that like this was one of those fights that not only was this a fight where I was picking one guy, but my heart was siding with you. I was rooting for JDS, my heart as a fan, right? But aside from that, even it was really just one of those fights. Even going in, I stated this in my breakdown, where you can argue not just either guy justifiably, but you can argue either guy inside the distance early. You can argue either guy for a decision, and you can argue either guy for adversity early with a comeback win.
Right.
And those were all tangible paths with facts that you could attach. By the way, like the facts that you brought. I didn't know that was your first article. That was better than a lot of people's writing for that being your first, so bravo. And I do like the style of the format of that article. I believe it's MMAtakeover.com. Shout out to them.
Yep.
That great debate style. I really like that. Keep doing that. Whoever's behind that, please. Really cool stuff. But shout out to them. But yeah, no, I think you made great points that I shared. Stipe mainly gets hit by those, said left hands. He was like, I think he was dropped in like 5 out of his 6 first fights, and he cleaned it up for a minute. Mm-hmm. And there's all these little arguments you could make for Stipe, and I always say I went against him in his last 5 fights before this, because
I did too.
Technically it was his last 4 fights, right? But even with Ben Rothwell, I had a breakdown that was like 1,300 words on like why I thought Ben Rothwell was going to win that fight before it got pulled. And that kind of led me to think, with the back injury, and he got that weird booking against Orlovsky, even though he should have been favored and should have beat Orlovsky. I was a little bit optimistic on Orlovsky and thinking that Stipe wasn't going at 100%, and it was just a weird hunch. And I was like, Stipe should win this fight, but I got Orlovsky. Anyways, neither here nor there. I couldn't bet against Stipe again, but man, yeah, you're right. Heavy Hands guys, to your great debate, it's not that anybody was wrong, especially with this kind of a fight. And y'all really did bring up good points. So it's one of those things where, back to what you said. I'm more than okay with taking accountability for my picks, but like you said, I'm always making sure that I'm an analyst first. There's plenty of people that are actual handicappers, that run actual betting shows. They're specialists. They sell picks. I let them do that stuff. I only have it on my breakdowns because A, it's fun, and B, for marketing purposes. People like that, you know what I'm saying? And C, for what it's worth, I actually am pretty damn accurate when you do the overall math, so that doesn't hurt, you know what I'm saying? I keep myself in beer money. If you look at, I'm not pumping my chest, because if you look at my betting accounts and my withdrawals compared to my pick percentages, I have a good pick percentage, overall. I should be making a shit ton of more money. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing wrong, Blake. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but it just goes to show you that betting and analyzing
don't go together.
And picking are even two different things themselves. Yeah, and I mean, there's so many levels to this, and it's not a cop-out, because there's some fights where, I will say that, or even though I picked the underdog with Andrade and against Jacek, and that was dumb of me, but I do outline a path there where Jacek could easily win it. It wouldn't surprise me, and I'm not saying that to protect myself, because on the other hand, there's fights like Yair and Frankie where I have a hard fucking opinion where I'm like, this is going to look like John Fitch versus Eric Silva. And sure enough, it did. They told the doctor mercifully stop that thing for Yair, and so he can see to fight another day, thankfully.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's not a cop-out thing or this or that. Like, if I'm have a strong opinion, I'm not afraid to put it, and I'll hold myself accountable. But I'm glad you put that up on there, because what you do is what I suggest everybody do. Like, even if I was pounding on my chest, which I'm not, I still wouldn't suggest you to just follow me. Only an idiot would just follow one source. What you do is right. Like you get you get your reference sheet, you pile it up, you listen, you take in, you read your breakdowns, and then you do that you compile it with your own, tapes, whatever your process is, or your mental notes you have in your head, your opinions, and then you get your answer, and you're just flipping a coin at that point. And if you're okay with that, then you have a more sound head than most people in the game. I'll tell you that much. It's a good approach by you, sir.
That's what I do, and I know a lot of people, they don't like to. They're very much your approach. They just like to filter everything. They have a big filter. Me, I need I'm very much open as much as you can see, and I very much need that approach to me. I need give me everything you got, bitches. Give me all that you got, so that way I'll put my own filter on it. But it's way different. I need as much information as I can, and I'll siphon to get the gold. Right? I'll do my own,
Yes.
mining, so to speak. I'll do my own homework, and I did my homework for that JDS fight, man. I watched his fight. His loss was Struve. And obviously, I watched the Alistair over him, which pained me. That's why I will never pick Stipe ever. I think I gave him kudos. Like, I think he's one of the greatest heavyweight champs that we've ever had. But I'm a huge Alistair fan, and I met Alistair when I went down to Jackson Winks last summer. My girlfriend's from Albuquerque, and so I got invited to go down there, and I met him. Nicest guy, one of the nicest guy I ever meet in the world. And I saw what he was doing for training for Stipe, and I saw that switch punch, to the left switch punch into southpaw, and I'm just like, oh, that's night night. That's night night. That's night night for a lot of people. That's night night for JDS. That's gonna be night night for this dude.
Yeah.
And it put him on his ass. Like, I did a breakdown. I remember being in Vegas, and I betted on him. Him and Faber fucked up my 9-man parlay. But you know what? Like, it was, I put $10 to win $600. In all fairness, I mean, that don't mean shit. In the I liked my odds that I had. You know what I'm saying? But Alistair, man, he got a weak chin. What can I say? But nicest guy in the world. I think harken back to that. And when you see these things, when you have these little insider bits of information, like you did with the Andrade, which is what I like. I like to hear the little tidbits of insider juiciness. That's why I listen to
With
everyone.
what I can give.
Yeah. And not everybody can do that. Like, I can do that with some people. You could do that with some people. Some other podcasts might could do that with some people. And it's nice to get like a good insider's vibe to it. And I think people shut themselves off when they shouldn't. Like, I'm not going to listen to him because I think I can find this over here. But I come with a more open approach. I'm like, oh, listen, like, this dude might be saying some stuff. The other dude might be saying some stuff. Everybody got something to say. But as far as I think, harken back to mixed martial arts analytics, there's very few people that do it. There's very few people that do it even well. Like, you're there. I know not enough people know me, but like, because I don't focus on it, I don't do enough of it. But with I have conversations with people like you. When I have conversations with in the future that I'm gonna have with Robin Black, I'm gonna I can hold my own. And when I go and make predictions, I break down shit as far as people just well, I hear a lot of these. I hear a lot of, and I know you do too. Well, he's a good volume puncher, and he puts a lot of pressure on. That's why I'm gonna go with him. And then it's not well. Okay, but what kind of punches is he throwing? What is he successful with? What do you mean by pressure? Is he counter and then he comes with the pressure? Is he always forward? Does he cut off the cage well? Like, those are the things I break down. So to kind of to bring down for UFC 206, I did this. This one still sticks with me. Is it 206? Yeah, the Anthony Pettis Holloway one. It was 206. I did this prediction. I said Misha Serkinov is going to choke out Nikita Krylov. And it's going to be with an arm triangle, because if you look at Nikita's ground defense, and I went back to go watch all of his losses, and then you look at the success rate that Misha Serkinov has on the top control or even from side control, this motherfucker will land that shit, man. And Nikita, I don't know what he's not doing, but he's not landing this. Sure enough, same shit happened. And I... To this day, I was on SFLC podcast. I love that podcast. I love it when they have me on, because as much as I'm wrong, I'm always happy with the ones I get right. So it's one of those things, man. Like, to bring it kind of full circle, we can sometimes the pictures that we show people from our analytics, they're 100% true, and sometimes they're just pieces of a bigger fight that's out of our control because we don't have a crystal ball. And I think that's one thing. Analysts are not predictors, and even the people who predict fights and get them right, and handicappers, like you said, sometimes they don't break it down like we do, and it's two different worlds, man, and I like that you talk about that on your show, and it's something I don't talk about enough, and it's something that I wanted to bring you on because I can finally talk to somebody about breaking down fights. Like, it's so exciting, and we haven't even done it, but it's so exciting
awesome,
to do
man.
it.
No, yeah. No, this is awesome, which is why I got to get you on. Well, first of all, I got to get you on my show, and also
Absolutely.
second of all, Robin's usually pretty good and receptive, but we'll
Yes.
talk off air if you need. I'm buds with him. I'm more than happy to reinforce the positive line on why he should do your show. So
Absolutely.
I will do that for you, sir.
Thank
But
you,
we'll
man.
talk off air about that.
Yeah.
But back on what you said. Yeah, absolutely. Because and you notice that again after maybe I talk about this. I try to keep my filter clean, but the degenerate in me, the fan in me, yeah, you bet I go, to other people's podcasts or breakdowns to see what their picks are. And I don't go too deep, especially if it's a written stuff, because I do have to write at the end of the day, and that filter is a little more sensitive.
Right, yeah.
As I am still an admitted novice in that, so I want to make sure that I believe I formed my own style from the start, but I want to make sure I continue to stay on that path and not track and regurgitate other people's. And I definitely don't want to go down that path,
Right.
obviously. But and I have enough, not only my opinions on this sport, which I feel are strong in comparison, but also I have my own personal experiences, which is kind of another layer to it. So thank you for appreciating that. But that being said, there's a lot of stuff I'm weak on, much as I love boxing, Conor Rebush, for example,
Yeah.
again, giving credit where credit's due.
I
That guy
love
has really
him.
great boxing
Love
stuff.
him, yeah.
And you kind of notice, right, yeah, and you listen to Heavy Hands, also kind of a niche for that, or Pat will have a little more sense of the clinch in the Muay Thai game, and Pat's a great guy, too. I've talked to him before. And then Luke is one of the few guys who does ground. Because that's one of the
Man, he's
reasons I
so
wanted
good
to
with
get
the
him, because
ground.
There's not enough.
So
Yeah,
good.
there's not enough people that have it, and I love it. And then I love that we're getting more options, because I went back to watch his take on the Whitaker and Jacare, and me and him highlighted two completely different. We focused on two completely different things. Neither were incorrect. But I'm just glad that we're at least having that variety from the outsider perspective, because the ground is something that's very lacking. You could tell, and again, not criticizing anybody. It's a very hard thing to understand unless you can do it. I have a hard time articulating it. I probably fail 7 times out of 10 on my own podcast, but I'm going to keep trying to anyways, because I feel that it's necessary. And then again, even though there's plenty better people than myself, for Muay Thai, even though I have experience in that. And boxing, even though I do have experience in competing and watching, analyzing all that, I'll be the first to admit there's better people than that. But when it comes to, karate or taekwondo and understanding that, there's a lot of awkward, unorthodox, and there's a lot of hot words that are kind of abused, and it's kind of, and again, we all do it. I do it in different realms of my life, or even within martial arts in different aspects. But there's those hot words we kind of insert because we don't understand, and there's plenty to not understand. There's no shame in not understanding.
Right.
There's plenty I don't fucking understand. I've been doing martial arts for 20 goddamn years, plus, right? I mean, there's plenty I don't understand. There's no shame in not understanding, but I feel like if you could placate your strengths, like we talked about before, there's no reason to apologize for it, because it is in fact important. So yeah, again, man, I agree with a lot of the points you have there, and I do it myself for what it's worth as an analyst. I love seeing other people's takes. It's going to enlighten me, and as a degenerate, you just want to see okay, I feel good about this bet, but if 4 out of the 5 guys that are on my reference list, or 9 out of the 10 guys, whatever your reference list, however big it is, if they agree with your pick, you got to admit you feel a little better about your pick, right, Blake?
Absolutely, man. And I don't hide it. I never hide anything. I'm like, you know what? I got so much shit wrong, but look at the shit I got right. And I told my friends too. It's so funny too, because I got into doing podcasting because I would sit around with friends who were really, a lot of them casuals, and I would just break down the fights as it's going on. I'm like, watch, he's gonna do this, he's gonna do this, and they're like, damn, you're little Joe Rogan over here, and I'm just like, man, maybe one day, we'll get there, man. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, man. But I love doing it. I love doing it, and so I got a microphone. I know how to do all this shit too. It's crazy. You talk about music. I know how to do all this because I went to school for commercial music management, and I was producing since the age of 15. I was producing music, Fruity Loops, Reason. I was making beats. I used to do hip hop, and then I did rock, and then I did alt rock. So R&B, I've done everything. And so it was just kind of 1 and 2 make 3, but kind of coming back to this, it's so, I don't know, man. It's so cool to meet up with somebody who knows. And I want to talk about with you. So old school boxing. I'm more of a fan of modern boxing. I really got into boxing in 2010 with Floyd Mayweather. Shane Mosley was the first card I watched all the way through.
Oh wow. Okay.
From start undercard, and it's so funny. Talk about somebody being on the undercard. Canelo was on the undercard fighting Miguel Cotto's brother. I think his name.
Yes. Yeah, I do. I remember that card. Yeah, I don't remember his name, but I remember that card.
Jose
Yes.
Miguel Cotto, or Jose Angel Cotto, or some shit like that. But Canelo fought Cotto's brother, and it was, oh my god, dude! Like that whole card stuck with me because I was going for Mosley. I was still young in my game. I was going for Mosley, and when Mosley landed that one in the second, the two of them in the second, I was like, oh, this shit's over. And then I spent the next 10 rounds appreciating the best boxer I've ever seen in my life, almost. Like,
Yeah.
And
Great countdown, by the way, for that great countdown they had for that series
my god,
too.
right?
Mosley and
That
Mayweather.
24/7.
That was a good one. That was one of the best. Yeah, 24/7. That's it. That's one of the best. But yeah, man, yeah, man, and that I mean, I watched the big fights that happened in the last decade. Like even before that, like I managed construction sites and stuff, and worked with, and I was friends with a lot of like the Mexican guys I work with, so they invited me over to their house for fight parties, and like I remember like picking like I remember I won a bunch of money one time because it was Miguel Cotto versus the first Cotto versus Margarito.
Margarito,
and
yeah.
yeah, we did the gambling game where we all draw rounds from a hat. I don't know if you did that. You had like a boxing party, and you put a bunch of money in like a hat, and you'll all draw rounds if you had enough friends.
It's similar.
We had.
So for people out there that
Yeah, go ahead.
they're just watching, it's similar to like picking squares for like the Super Bowl. It's very similar to that. I'm Mexican. I know
Yes.
exactly what the fuck you're talking about. Go ahead, man.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So like, luckily there was like 12 of us, and I remember like picking. And I'm like, I get number 11, and I'm like, fuck, round number 11. That's one of the worst rounds you can get. You know, that is the worst round because 12, if it goes, 12, that's constituted as a decision. So you just hope that neither guy fucking loses, and you're good, right? You know what I'm saying? But 11 and on, that's the worst. So I have like the worst out of the loot. But that was such a dramatic fight. If you remember that fight, as far as the back and forth swings, and this is pre-hand wraps, or there was probably hand wraps involved, but I should say pre-public. We knew about hand.
There were, and to break down the fight, like to add some essence to this whole nostalgic right here. I remember I've watched that fight many times, man, because I'm a modern boxing fan. So that fight, for the first 6 rounds, Miguel Cotto is dictating pace, but he's just not hurting Margarito. And all of a sudden, anytime Margarito lands, Cotto he's like he literally is stunned for literally. There's this half second where you're like, well, fire back, motherfucker! But he doesn't. He pauses. He does these like half-second pauses and then initiates again with his attack. But he's pressuring. And then after the 6th round, you see his face. Everything starts catching up with his face. And you're just like, oh my God, like what is going on right now, man? So yes, this was the we found out about the rap. I'm sure, I'm like 95% sure Margarito was wrapped then too. But and for those that don't know, go look that up. But go ahead. I wanted to add just this little oomph to your.
Oh no, that's great. Yeah, and that's a bad. And Cotto, that was before Cotto took all that. This is before the Cotto of today. That was before even the Cotto that fought Pacquiao. This was a Cotto where that was weird to see him take damage, and then visibly. I mean, we're talking about a guy with shark eyes. All right? Like who has fucking darker shark eyes than Miguel Cotto? And we're seeing, Blake put it so beautifully. We're seeing almost like a weird stun effect. And if a guy with shark eyes is getting stunned, something's up. And that was exactly, that was a beautiful breakdown of that fight. So, but yeah, I mean, I watched the bigger fights, but I'm not going to pretend to be able to hang as far as the developments of Anthony Joshua up until recently before that Klitschko fight, or like I've been following these guys closely. I'll be the first to admit I haven't, but that was one of the cool things when I was looking you guys up, was I was really still kind of new to the community, but you see the MMA gloves on your guys' logo. But when I was looking through your guys' stuff on the iTunes, your episode selection, a lot of boxing content, a lot of the branches of that, and also seeing Loudmouth doing its own stuff from what Kyle was saying on his podcast.
Yeah.
And, man, I love that. I love seeing people just unabashedly just spreading their fingers into different combat sports, because it's all great, man. There's people that are passionate about it all. I might not have as much time as I would like to for these things, like boxing, but I think it's really important, and I'm really glad y'all out there tackling it, fighting a good fight.
Yeah, man, and I feel like boxing is an important aspect just in itself because it translates to MMA so well, but it's very much forgotten. Like I feel like a lot of people cover kickboxing and Muay Thai really well, and I feel like a lot of people cover jujitsu and grappling really well, and I don't feel
Yeah,
like there's that
yeah.
boxing medium which is so important. Like it is, and I think it's making a slow comeback, a slow focus
Yeah.
comeback, a slow honed focus comeback. I think people are starting to pay attention that footwork is key. Being in the right place, the right
Hmm.
time, it's key. Angles are key. Um, it's these little nuances that are only taught and honed in on in boxing, much like the way when we went through the wrestling phase. It was very much a wrestling phase with like when Frankie was up and
Yeah.
coming in 08, 09, 2010, 11, when George St. Pierre was still, we're watching his double leg transition into a single leg high crotch, and we're like, God damn, that boy can chain wrestle. But nobody's talking about chain boxing. Nobody's talking about this. Like, and I think it's a very important thing because like there's things in boxing that are old school that are a lot of people don't. So like one person I'll particularly point to, Willie Pep translates really well into a style of Dominic Cruz. Dominic Cruz, if you go watch a Willie Pep fight, not you, but like it generalized you, they go watch a Willie Pep fight, just watch 5 minutes of it, and you'll see, oh, I see exactly where Dominic Cruz got his switch stancing from because it's a unique switch stance. It's a unique control the wrist. It's a unique thing, and all these styles have been mixing together because like old school boxers used to train wrestling. I don't know if you knew that, but like a lot of people out there don't. And so like the early 1920, 30, 40s, these guys were training wrestling. They were training like catch wrestling. So they controlled the wrist and the gloves were different. And all these little things add into what we know boxing now as. So when you see somebody like this weekend, Terrence Crawford, a guy who very much reminds me, if I could put an MMA equivalent to him, is TJ Dillashaw. Because he switches stances, he's aggressive, he's forward pushing. He's got, decent defense, but he catches people at very weird angles, almost similar to the way that Roy Jones was doing, but in a different way, in a very much a different way. Where Roy Jones mixed very much defense into offense, Terrence Crawford's all about the offense, all about catching you either from southpaw or orthodox and mixing them in. And I think that's the new, like we talk about the evolution of MMA, that's the next thing, is these switch stances, is these fighters who are going to come from boxing or focus a lot on boxing because there's so many. But you talk about there's so many kickboxing styles. There's Dutch, there's American, there's
Right.
a Thai. There's all these different boxing styles. There's Russian, there's Cuban, there's American, there's Mexican, there's even the Europeans kind of have their own type thing, man, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
and it's too much to keep up with. Like if you focused on one thing, so the world needs people like you. The world needs people like me to talk about these little nuanced things that I think they either get forgotten, they don't get any love to them, or they get overtaken because somebody with a bigger medium gets to talk about something else that people. Oh, when you go into, it's so funny because you see something on Saturday that worked, and then all of a sudden you go to kickboxing class or you go to MMA class, and they're like, all right, we're going to focus on elbows. We're going to focus on whatever the hot move was that ended.
Yeah. 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 No. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I've been there, man.
No, I feel you. I feel you, man, and I like that you kind of equate it to boxing and footwork because, from an analyst and from what I'm watching and from that perspective, I agree. We're seeing more of that of a trend. People pick that up in their own interpretations. Whether you have the super outlier on one end of the spectrum, which is Dominic Cruz, or you have more of T.J. Dillashaw, which I never compared to Dominic Cruz because it was a different style. And it was a different style of shifting, and like we said, shifting and probably more, we would see that more Russian style of boxing if we're going to be ethnicity, based,
Yeah.
but also we would see kind of more sloppy and aggressive offensive style shifting, like maybe by even Mexican boxers, like a
Yes.
Camacho or some guy, coming forward and being a little more sloppy and hooky with it and this and that. And I think that's a big thing, and even just seeing certain fundamentals. Like I was lucky enough to train under Gil Martinez, great Mexican boxing coach, and you'll notice when Mike Chandler had his biggest run in Bellator up to the Eddie Alvarez title, where before he shocked the world and beat Eddie Alvarez, he shocked everybody and outstruck Patricio Freire, a pickle
Yeah,
brother, right, at
yeah.
155, and that was his event. Everyone remembers that. And it was one of those things, and it really bummed me out because we saw Chandler go back to low hands and taking damage when he went to Alliance. Not talking crap about Alliance or Chandler, friends with him personally, but when I met Chandler was when he was training under the same boxing coach, Gil Martinez, who we had at Extreme Couture for a bit, although he's always kind of had his own gym and his own, boxing smoker circuits, which is kind of how I got some of my experience back in the day as well. And he'd always have his boxers come in with us, but one of the things he really instilled in his fighters, you'll see it in Chandler, and it's something that I do every time I throw a two now, is you roll with your two, you roll under, because everyone talks about how good Mexicans, they stereotype the left hook with the Mexican boxer, right? But one of the things well, if you're good at something, chances are you're good at the defense at it. And he really instilled that defense. So, even when you thrown your twos and your power punches, you were always having that check hook or those left hooks in mind, to where he was instilling guys to roll underneath it. You don't see, very many guys do that. And as far as footwork goes, I wasn't too ever, classically or intensely trained on footwork. A lot of it was kind of my own, because I always had that weird karate style. I had the taekwondo style that was bouncing, and I learned, okay, people can time your bounces.
Right.
And taekwondo is 90% hands or 90% feet, 10% hands. So I'm like, let's go to the base of martial arts. Let's go to the motherland of martial arts, where it's kung fu and kempo karate, where it's more of an 80-20 split. It's more hands, it's more fundamentals. Because I'm this is the 90s, before I was aware of UFC,
Yeah.
before I was aware of jiu-jitsu. Like this is the common thought, right? It sounds ludicrous now, but this was my thought. So I'm learning the karate and the kempo, and I'm balancing out. Now I'm learning the hands, and we're learning actually like shitty triangle chokes and judo chokes. And we're actually learning grappling, within it as well. And then I look in, Black Belt Magazine. I'm like, hey, what's this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu stuff? My friend Christian Silva, who's a Brazilian, is like, hey, come learn this Jiu-Jitsu stuff. And it was back in the day where my coach was like, no, Dan, everything you can learn is right here. We're the best. Like, everybody talks about the UFC, like, some past history book, like back in the day, like people were arguing which martial arts were the best. And no, I lived through that era.
Right.
Like I'm a product of that era. And unfortunately, back then, I actually listened to my senseis, right? And it wasn't later till I got into grappling. Sorry, the tangent here.
You're good, man.
But yeah, man. So it was turning that, and I had this kind of karate, taekwondo to karate hybrid, and then all of a sudden, after the punk rock days are over, I'm trying to get back into martial arts now. I'm working valet at Caesar's Palace here with a buddy of mine, Mike Moss, who actually went to Thailand and trained. Master Toddy's was one of. I'm sure people listening are familiar with that name, Master Toddy. This guy was one of our pupils, and he actually took me in his garage. I would teach him some kempo karate stuff. More importantly, he would teach me Muay Thai stuff, because this guy could kick my ass. Like, it was real apparent, like the problems. Like, I didn't have to YouTube the karate versus Muay Thai video. Like, I had these sparring sessions. I had to learn the hard way, and it made me appreciate it. And then I picked up Muay Thai from there, adjusted my style. By the time I get to Extreme Couture, I'm emptying my cup. I'm gonna learn, focus on boxing, kickboxing, this and that. And then eventually integrate, and it was just this whole long story of ass kickings, which I'll spare you guys. It's a real painful tale of a bunch of smokers and exhibitions, some of which I won, but still got my ass kicked. Anyways, and it's funny, now that I've been concussed, like I was telling you the previous story, Blake, in the last 2 years, and I count on two hands the amount of times I've been in the gym and in classes, sadly, with all these injuries that I've dealt with in these last 2 years, aside from the concussion. I actually feel like I've gotten better. Even just with I've been relegated to a lot of shadows. I'm talking about, right? I mean, the audience have built up working through certain outlets. I gotta come correct with my information, and even if I think I know something, I have to go back and I have to double check it. And I have to then find details. That's my due diligence. That's just kind of how I'm wired. But in that, it's funny now. Only now, out of competition, Blake. Taking in the boxing fundamental footworks of shifting, understanding outside foot position, and how not only that'll give you your angle for your cross, but even from a kicking standpoint, that gives you, all these weird angles for kicks that we saw Yen Jacek at 211 to hit a, instead of a check hook, she was using
she was using her lead kick almost like a check hook, and that's a real hard skill. It takes a lot of leg dexterity, right? It's hard enough to hit a check hook on a high level fighter, but to do it with your freaking leg, and these are all kind of things that foot positioning is required. And now even when I'm moving around on my own and doing my own little circuits where I do at home, it's kind of my only workouts where I have time to get these days. But it feels like now I'm honestly putting it together, whereas before it's like, okay, I'm an ambidextrous guy. I can fight from multiple stances, from multiple styles, but it was very choppy, right, Blake? Like if I was in an orthodox style, chances are it's more of a Muay Thai stance. I'm looking for my leg kick. If I'm in a southpaw stance, I'm still looking for my liver kick then as I am now, but it's a little more different. I was throwing more of my hands, and now it's just learning different fundamentals. I almost feel like more of a better boxer from my orthodox stance, where like, but I can do it from both. I finally got these shoulder and certain mechanics down, and certain things to where like I can be in my southpaw stance. I can step back, and I can step back as I roll under a hook, return fire with the two, and have a Muay Thai leg kick right behind, seamlessly go from the boxing rolling, stepping back into a loaded Muay Thai power shot,
right,
and kind of seamlessly melding these things together. And it's weird. So I really, long tangent, but I really do kind of second that as far as boxing footwork still has a lot of room to grow. But you're right. The little we have seen it has made big differences. So I, like you, am excited to see more of it integrated into the future. And
I really think it is. And to touch on the points, so if people aren't sure what you're saying with the 2 and the roll under, go watch a Floyd Mayweather fight, because that's all. That's like his primary. Like that's what he throws like 60% of the time. He throws a 2, which is just a straight. It's the right cross, but he goes under. He goes like this, and then he goes under like that way. That's a perfect. Like every time you said that, I'm like, oh, Floyd, because that's what he does. And there's one thing I want to point out about Floyd, and I don't know, you might not study him the way I do. I've watched all of his fights. I have all of his fights on MP4. I've watched all of them plenty of times. I could tell you specific things that happened. I'm that guy. Like, nickname Money Blakeweather just didn't come because I decided to call myself Money Blakeweather one day. Like, it's this long story, but it's there's what was I getting at? Oh, so it's the 2 and the roll under. But man, what was I getting at? Floyd 2, the under.
I don't know him as well as you, but he takes a lot of different angles off of that roll under. So it's like you don't have to necessarily move a certain way. Like I was kind of given a basic way, but yeah, like you said, just go watch Floyd's, and he'll kind of roll under and show you kind of the different ways to move your feet. All correct, all definitely have the different function. But what he disguises that 2 and roll under with, how he's able to do so much depending on what the situation calls for. Hopefully that sparked your memory.
Oh yeah,
that's about all I can say.
It definitely did. No, it definitely did. And so it's the 2 and the roll under. But what he does really well that nobody points out, everybody talks about Floyd's faster. I disagree with everyone that says that Floyd is faster, and I'm going to tell you why. He's not faster. He just anticipates. It's like a weatherman. He predicts the weather, but when he predicts the weather, it's always right. Because he knows if he throws this, whether you're in a southpaw position or whether you're in orthodox, what he knows is when he threw that 2, you threw something at him. So when you throw back, you have to throw with the opposite hand. So then he just cuts the opposite way of whatever hand you're throwing. So anybody go back and watch any fights that you want to. He's not faster. He's just better at predicting what you're going to do because he's seen the same combo that you're about to throw, and he knows the next you're going to throw one of 2 punches, and you're probably going to go with the one that's has a higher likelihood of landing. So then he'll avoid both of them. So a good 2 good notes of this were one in the Robert Guerrero fight so Robert Guerrero was a southpaw fighter, and he was landing the check hook. He was landing the check hook just all the time, check hook. And then when Robert Guerrero would get sick of it, he would rush in, and then he would land a 2, and Robert Guerrero would be so furious he would throw his own straight, his left straight, and Floyd knew he would do that, so he would just cut the angle and I don't say run off. He would cut the angle and move off. Same thing with Canelo. When he fought Canelo, opposite way. He knew Canelo was going to try to combo him. He was either going to come up with a hook, an uppercut, or maybe a straight and a hook. So he would avoid all of that. He would just circumvent, and he would fake one way. He would throw. He would land. He would go one way, he would fake it, and then go the other way. And it's just a thing of beauty. And as far as prediction, as far as the anticipation, I don't think he's faster. I think he's smarter at the anticipation. He's smarter at his weather predictions of what you're going to throw. And I don't think he gets enough credit for something like that. It's a little nuance that Stephen A. Smith is not going to talk about. Guys like Skip Bayless, who both of them I fucking hate. As far as when they talk about MMA stuff or boxing stuff, it infuriates me. I want to throw my fucking remote at the TV, and I'm like, wait a minute, now Blake, you paid a lot for that fucking TV. Wait a minute, maybe we need to think about maybe we need to think about your life real quick. Wait, but it's right. There's things like that, like people like that get played. People like you and me, just over here, talking on the curb, and a lot of people will see this, but these little nuances, itty bitty things that unless you pinpoint and focus on fighters, I think to hit on that point, you never ever notice, or you never ever think about, because it's your brain, your mind, your experience. Your experience of what you've done, it don't move that way because you ain't been there. And teaching is a great thing. Teaching yourself is the best thing. Like, I've taught in white belts at karate level, and I've talked to Stephen Wonderboy about this, and I'm like, why are you so good at your basics? Is it because you teach little kids? And he was like, yeah, brother. Yeah, my friend. My friend, yeah. The way my friend, yeah, my friend. That's the way. Yeah. So it's one of those things, man. Like, just focusing on the basics, whether it's teaching yourself or teaching people new, like, you forget about these little itty bitty things that you don't ever think about because there's 1,000 million hundred different things that the whole world's trying to push down your throat because it's the hot move that somebody pulled. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Absolutely. Real quick, I love that weather analogy, by the way. But even if y'all aren't, boxing analysts or striking analysts or any of that stuff, just put it this way. Just look at Floyd Mayweather's gambling tendencies, and you can tell this is a man that plays the odds. That's what he does. That's essentially all he's doing is in the ring. In other words, he is a man that is not afraid to play the odds. He's confident in the odds and the numbers, and that's what he's going to play every time.
Oh yeah.
And that's essentially what you were saying in there. But yeah, man, no, back, but back to what back to what you were saying about that. Wow, now I'm getting lost. Now my head's just in boxing. You got me. I came on here talking MMA, and now I'm like, I'm more excited for boxing than I've been in a while. Blake, what are you doing to me, man? Now my head's all in that realm. I'm like, ooh, I gotta watch more. No, I remember that fight. I want to go back and watch Mosley. Yeah, I wonder why I watched the Guerrero fight, because the check hook is the southpaw punch, and he completely took that away. And you're just beating up all these points that are true. But now I want to watch boxing. So damn you, Blake. Damn you.
damn you, man. Well, I'll keep it right there, man. I want to do a part 2 with you here in the coming future. Yeah. I don't want to take up too much of your time, man, but I want to do a thing I always end with, and I want to leave people wanting more too, right? Because this could have gone a million different ways. I would leave people wanting more. We're going to do a part 2. But, Dan, so I do a thing, random ask questions, just like I told you. I'm going to throw some flyers at you, and we'll see what we do, man. First random ask question. Obviously, it's Loaded Joe's MMA podcast. I need to know, favorite drink at the bar, my friend.
Favorite drink at the bar. Beer is a crapshoot, and if you want my beer, I can let you follow up on that. But I will just go for a Bullet Bourbon Neat. It's classy, but not too classy, where all the bars are gonna have it. You can't mess up a neat drink. And I will tell you one thing, bartenders, I never get compliments. Y'all probably listening never got a compliment from any of your bartenders. But if you order a nice quality whiskey or bourbon neat, male or female, you're going to get some respect. You're going to get a head nod from your bartender. So try it. Let's for an experiment.
I love it, man. I'm a huge whiskey fan. Old fashioned is my go-to.
Nice.
So if somebody
good stuff.
When somebody can do an old fashioned with some rye, brother, you got a client for forever, my friend. Favorite movie of all time?
That's tough. I'm a big movie buff, so I'm just going to go with the movie that I have seen. Coming in a close second was the aforementioned Fight Club, but no, I got to go with the number one, Die Hard, baby, 1988.
Wow.
It's like wine. It gets better with age.
Wow, went
Die
there.
Hard, motherfuckers.
Went there, man. Favorite MMA fighter of all time?
Shit, man, that's tough. I mean, I'm gonna go with the typical answer. As a 5'9" Hawaiian, we don't have many Hawaiians, much less 5'9" Hawaiians to look up to.
There it
I
is.
gotta go with BJ Penn. He's the most courageous man when the books are said and done.
It is, man. I
Not
like.
the best, but the most courageous.
And that's where we'll leave BJ Penn. No, he's definitely you make a you make a book of the greats. He's in there for sure, man. I love it.
Cannot. Yeah.
3 artists on your playlist when you work out, my friend.
Shit. Try to go with stuff that you might think is random, but let's see. Well, no, not too random. Metallica is a classic one that's
Always,
on there
always
all the time.
classic.
Pantera. I'll go something non-metal because I'm not that tip. Actually, metal's probably only a good quarter of it, but it's a strong quarter. I'll go with David Bowie. Actually, I have a track or two of his on there on a workout mix.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah,
my
you put.
workout mixes are everywhere. I got movie scores. I got Hans Zimmer. Sorry, but yeah, there's my official 3.
I like it, man, Dave. But you got to get that. Fame makes men make things over. Yeah, we went. We
This
went
one's
there.
from the nice. No, I love that track. But this was the Moon Age Daydream,
Okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. I
Oh,
uses
yeah.
it, does just,
That sound.
but it's a nice little jam.
Both of those soundtracks, all the tracks on them, you can get down with them. You get down with those soundtracks. I like that, man. Vacation spot, never been to. You always wanted to go to.
Never been to, always wanted to go to. I will do Goa, India. That's always been on the list. Really, very kind of hippie part of India, but there's a lot of cool stuff there as far as one of the more beautiful beach sceneries, but then you also got a cool jungle scenery, but not too many tigers, so you're not quite at risk. The high sulfur count in the mountains kind of keep them away, but you got some real beautiful scenery and history over there.
I like it. I like it, man. So I got to know this because you're about my age range. I'm 28. You're about my age range. You grew
All
up.
right.
You grew up in my kind of my scenery. The Pink Ranger. Did you have a crush on the Pink Ranger when you was young? I know. I gotta know.
I did, man. As a half
Yeah.
Asian, I didn't. Maybe I didn't appreciate the Asian girl as much as I should have. Maybe it was a little racist thinking of the Yellow Ranger sure, but my eyes were undoubtedly trained on the Pink Ranger, man.
Oh man.
I love me. The Triceratops was my favorite dinosaur, but there was no other Ranger I would rather ride than the Pink Ranger. So we'll put it leave it at that.
Ayo, this guy did that.
Just kidding. No, I'm sure she's nice. Actually, you know what's funny? I actually saw her on an audition tape. I did an acting class. Gerald Gordon, he's a famed acting teacher, taught
Yeah.
Adrian Brody, et cetera, et cetera. And I got to see these really audition tapes from the early '90s from said Adrian Brody, Sean William Scott, who y'all might be familiar with.
Absolutely.
And I got to kind of be behind the scenes on that end. But upon the same audition tapes was a Pink Ranger, and she wasn't that good, man. She wasn't that good. She wasn't that good in her screen read. But so I don't know what happened to her. I'm rooting for her.
Right.
I hope she surfaces something. That's my take on the Power Rangers, man. That's my deep cut.
Shout outs to Amy Jo Johnson wherever she's at. Baby mama, hit me up. Hit me up if you're free. Get some free time. Hit me and Dan Tom up.
Well, I'm taking. Well, hit Blake up. I'm a spoken for man now. So that was 8-year-old Dan Tom making the Pink Ranger comment. By the way, that's why I was so immature. That's at least that's what I'm gonna say. But hit up Blake.
I got a girlfriend of 5 years, but I'm just saying, like that's my pass right there. Like, her and Alexa Grasso are my passes. That's all I'm saying right there.
That's defensible. That's defensible.
Love it, man. Celebrity crush.
Ooh, I'm not one much for celebrities, but then but when I do have crushes on them, it'll be like weird ones. I will say, can an MMA one count as celebrity, or do you want like celebrity?
No. Is anybody celebrity?
I was gonna do celebrity and go Winona Ryder, which isn't too big, but kind of a weird deeper pool from the '90s. I know, don't ask.
Don't judge it.
MMA-wise, I love me some Marloes Coonan. I think she is a respectable lady, man. I don't need the what's hot. I don't need the plastic surgery. I don't need your typical blonde. Although my girlfriend's blonde, I love me some blonde. I'm just saying, like, it could be just like a classy lady who carries herself confidently, a nice Dutch accent, and just can kickbox the shit. Oh my gosh, yeah. Say no more.
I like Marlies Conan. She's nice, man. So you like your women like you like your beer blonde. I got you, man.
I'm actually an IPA guy, so I don't know what that says about my women. That's actually a scary outlook, actually. For me. Wow. Okay.
Oh man, I cannot do IPAs, man. I did a pills tonight. That's about as far IPA. I got
Yeah,
I got my particular IPAs I go to, but like
I hear you.
I think it's like some people with whiskey.
Acquired.
It's an acquired taste. Yeah. That's a
Yes.
good way to put it.
Yeah, I started out with brown ale. I started out as more of a brown ale guy, or a Heineken, which is a real Hawaiian stereotype. I don't know why a German or a Dutch
What the fuck?
beer became a Hawaiian stereotype. But I'll tell you, yeah, I don't understand. I even went when I was in Amsterdam. I went to the Heineken factory. I got really drunk, but I don't know why my people love it so much. Anyways, but so I mean, I'm not a beer snob by any means, but I've kind of just eventually, I still love everything in between, but I've just grown real hard onto IPAs lately. Maybe it's the craft beer epidemic that's taken upon us in the last 5 years, sir, but I'm a victim.
Could be that, man. Final question here, then we'll get you on out of here, Dan Tom. If they were to make a movie about your life, who would play you?
Jesus. Well, luckily, as a half Asian Pacific Islander, we all kind of look alike. I get Glenn from The Walking Dead, and everything in between. People that don't even match my skin type. Oh yeah, I had this guy Kiyusuke Yokohama, Japanese as shit. Like I'm a dark skinned Asian. I have a full tattoo sleeve. Okay, Kiyusuke had a similar haircut, granted, but Kiyusuke was like fair skinned Japanese, no tattoos. This guy from 10th Planet, I think like David Johnson or something, fights him. David comes up to me after fighting Kiyosaki and goes, "That was a really good fight, man. Thanks for getting in there with me." I'm like, I'm looking at my friends and my coaches. We're all looking like, what just? And he keeps walking. I'm like, I hope he was concussed. Otherwise, that was welcomely racist, and I appreciate it. But no. I would say Jason Scott Lee, who the Jungle Book from the early '90s, because if you look at pictures of me as a child, I look like the actor they used for Mowgli there, and then I've also gotten Jason Scott. I'll go Jason Scott Lee if you have a time machine on you.
Yeah, Jason Scott Lee, man, he's kind of one of those guys who's kind of 90s and then kind of left the scene. But I can see it. I shave his head, put some glass on him. I can see
it, yeah. I'll be catching up to him in age soon enough, man. Us Asians, we look young to a certain point, and then we're just like Fu Manchu old after a certain point. There's no fucking middle ground, man. We're just like it's, we definitely have our point.
That's that Joe Coy right there. He was talking about. I love it, man. I love it. It's so true though, right? Like even Mexicans get like that. Like all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, like what happened? And then like it's just wrinkles everywhere. And you don't know where the fuck they came. I don't know, man. That's a different story for a different day. Dan Tom, man, let people know, man, where they can find you on the social medias. Shout out anything you're working on. If you got you know what to do right now. Just take over my show. Shout out everything you need to, my man.
Well, I appreciate it, man. The easiest way is just to follow me on Twitter at the MMAnalyst, Dan Tom. You can follow my podcast, which is also on Twitter at the PYN Podcast. Or if you're just looking for a website, you want to find my content, the podcast, all my breakdowns, all my articles, and any of that good stuff, just go to mixedmartialanalyst.com. Otherwise, keep it tuned right here to the Loaded Joes here, and anybody in the network. Shout out to y'all. One of the most positive networks that I've been a part of. So thank y'all. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Dan Tom. Thank you so much for coming on, my man. It's been awesome time. Everybody out there, please go follow him. Stay tuned. Tomorrow night, or you're watching this, so it's going to be tonight. Live episode of Loaded Joe's MMA podcast. We're coming to you direct. Thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all have a good rest of the day, night, evening, morning, whatever you're doing. Peace.